Hello, my name is Tyler Gillespie, and I will be presenting on how to integrate gaming and avatars successfully into your classroom and why it would be beneficial to do so. Unsurprisingly, the idea of implementing video games and the avatars that are generally used to reflect their player is a novel approach to instruction in the 21st century. Gaming is often seen as a rather niche hobby meant strictly for entertainment and stereotypically found to be quote unquote nerdy. However, public perception has changed throughout the years as video games have become more and more accepted, given the rise of modern first-person shooters such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare and the Halo series, annual sports games such as the popular 2K series, and with both competitive esports, which is playing video games professionally, generally in a tournament format for money and cash prizes, and streaming the gameplay of the videos has become a profitable career for many people. As the stigma of geekiness erodes over time and video games are taken more seriously, it's an absolute no-brainer to begin integrating both traditional tabletop and digital video games into the classrooms. Now, when it comes to integrating gaming into your class, outside of physical activity and avatars, it's best to find games that are suited to your subject. There is not a single subject that doesn't already have an educational video game that covers it. Math Blasters is an exciting shooting game that develops math skills that you can use inside your classroom. Mario is Missing covers multiple time spans and what happens during history at these times while using familiar Nintendo characters such as Mario and Luigi. And D&D Dungeons & Dragons is an amazing tool for both theater and discussing the mechanics of literature. Personally, I'm a theater teacher. When it comes to acting, there is no better exercise than developing a character through Dungeons & Dragons and then acting that character out. Simulators that focus on clothing can be used to assist students in designing costumes, and building games such as Minecraft are wonderful tools in building models for sets. Due to the medium stigma of being strictly for entertainment, it's quite easy to overlook the possible benefits gaming can provide in the classroom. Video games generally help develop a student's problem-solving skills simply due to the fact that solving a problem is the main point of a video game. Take the popular game Tetris, for instance. Blocks are constantly falling from the sky, and you have to arrange them in lines to cause them to disappear and prevent the screen from filling up completely. That is your problem, and you must solve how to place each block in the most efficient way. However, due to the increasing speed and complexity of the falling blocks, you have to develop your decision-making skills in order to progress through the game. Mario is about saving the princess, and you have to solve the best way to progress through each platforming level. Collectathon games, such as Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64, involve the player finding clues throughout the in-game environment, such as bushes that may stick out, finding patterns or solving puzzles, or using a combination of power-ups to find the amount of items required to progress through the game. There's even an entire genre of games known as point-and-click adventures that involve progressing through a narrative story, clicking through the environment to find various tools, clues, and other items in an effort to solve the current problem affecting the story. Grim Fandango, Sam & Max, and the adult-themed Leisure Suit Larry are popular examples of the genre. Surprisingly enough, even mobile games can provide a worthwhile learning experience. Games such as Angry Birds or Cut the Rope are basic physics simulators that also test the students' problem-solving abilities. Since they're intended to be played on the go and not for long durations in one sitting, the gameplay is quite simple and provides immediate feedback. This can be worthwhile in teaching either younger students or students with learning disabilities. However, not every game has to be digital, with a plethora of physical games still being able to enhance student learning and engagement. Tabletop games, such as Dungeons & Dragons, can help a student understand plot structure, teach them how to develop a character through acting, and how a character's actions can cause consequences which affect the overarching plot of a story. Other games, such as Settler of Catan or Monopoly, can help students understand the basic principles of land development, trade, economics, and budgeting. You have to form a monopoly to win Monopoly, after all. The thing is, I haven't even covered the type of video games that are designed with the intent purpose of educating its player. Educational video games are designed to make learning fun and can better engage students due to the fact they find enjoyment in playing a game, no matter if they're learning or not. The Jumpstart series, Big Brain Academy, Math Blaster, and Brain Age are all examples of the genre, with the lattermost game, Brain Age, selling 19 million copies on the Nintendo DS. I've personally found within my classroom that students are more engaged in an assessment if they can conflate it with a game of sorts. More specifically, I found an increase of scores when I've used Kahoot as an assessment, which is an online quizzing program that with its quick pace, cheery soundtrack, and focus on high scores, presents itself as a video game. Even though the students have less time per question, generally 15 to 30 seconds compared to a regular quiz, their competitiveness and engagement counteracts this and has improved their. Gaming is also a particular boon to certain minority students, more specifically LGBT and physically disabled students. Games such as Second Life, VR Chat, and Garry's Mod allow their players to use avatars to represent themselves as they move throughout the world. A transgender student, for instance, experiencing gender dysphoria can use this to better represent themselves, finding an avatar to use which better reflects how they would wish to present themselves in the event the class is given digitally. The Nintendo Wii, a console released in 2006, which specializes in motion controls, can also be used for physically disabled students during physical education classes. The console itself has been a staple in many nursing homes and rehabilitation centers since its release, as popular games such as Wii Sports or Wii Fit are fairly low impact on their joints, but still encourage a wide array of movements. Implementing this into the classroom can allow physically handicapped students to still participate in class and not have to sit idly by at the wayside. While not necessarily in the classroom, gaming can help a student's future, more specifically, helping fund any further education. As I mentioned before, both competitive esports and streaming gameplay on services such as Twitch.tv or YouTube have shown to be sustainable careers, with multiple tournaments offering $100,000 pots and many streamers making upwards of $50,000 a year. Popular games such as Overwatch, Street Fighter, and Super Smash Bros. Have had their largest tournaments featured on national television channels such as ESPN, ESPN2, and Disney XD. This explosion of esports has caused many colleges to catch on to the trend, with over 30 universities nationally offering scholarships to competitive esports players. For instance, Robert Morris University in the Midwest can offer students up to $19,000 a semester to compete in League of Legends while representing their school. Considering esports is a constantly expanding industry, with Arkansas State personally investing into their own esports team, for instance, I can only. However, one does not have to stop at integrating gaming into the classroom. One can utilize the driving concepts behind the design of video games to create a more welcoming classroom environment. To paraphrase Paul Anderson, a Minnesotan teacher, in his TED Talk, gaming helps destigmatize failure. It's no secret that it's common for a student to feel anxiety over failing aspects of a course, whether it's an assignment, exam, or even the entire class. Failing in a conventional classroom is final. There's often no retaking a test. If you fail, you fail. This stigma isn't present in video games. Sure, you can die in a level of Super Mario and technically fail, but you're still able to retry the level again. The failure in a video game isn't final like it can be in a classroom. You're able to build upon the skills that you've accrued over your failures to where you're able to eventually pass the level and not have it go against you, unlike a test in the traditional classroom setting. So, during this time, I would like to go over some of the websites that I was talking about. The first one that I'm going to go over is Kahoot, and sort of review it. This website right here is absolutely phenomenal. It's almost replaced the majority of my assessments because my students absolutely love it. It basically turns a test or a quiz into a video game. It focuses on high scores. It constantly keeps the kids updated on their score and compared to the rest of the class, whoever is taking the Kahoot. It's absolutely great. It engages them and it makes them competitive. You can create all your Kahoots that you want. It's very easy. The quiz creator is very intuitive. You can make as many questions as you want. You can determine how long the questions give for them to answer. It's absolutely marvelous. It's even more convenient a lot of times than regular paper tests, mostly because After your students do the Kahoot, you can go to reports and you can download the tests that they've taken. And it gives you a spreadsheet. It tells who's taken them, how many they've gotten right, which ones they've gotten right or wrong. It's marvelous. The only downside, the only caveat, is that it aggressively tries to get you to subscribe to their plan. It is a free website, free to use, free application. But they constantly want you to upgrade. And it's very annoying. The big old window pops up, and it gets to the point to where you can't even find the way to close it out. But other than that, it's great. Now, the second website that I'm going to talk about is Twitch.tv. Like I said before, esports and streaming video gameplay, it's an absolute gold rush. It's an expanding industry, and there's a lot of money to be made. Now, if you're wanting to develop an esports team at your high school or to use gameplay as a way to teach students how to perform, especially if you're doing something like D&D, just by using this website, it's a great way to have other people view your students, the public watch them, to critique, and also it allows you to have just copies for students to watch themselves as they're performing, as they're trying to develop characters. Even though it's generally focused towards video games, even tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons, like I just said, one of the largest streams that regularly gets 50,000 viewers a week from their one show they do a week, Critical Role, is done on this website. You can see a lot of people right here, a lot of streamers, they have fairly good numbers. Nairo right here, he has 2,000 viewers. Germa over here has 4,000 viewers, and these aren't large streamers, believe it or not. Even though these numbers are relatively large, these are just average Joes. And if you're wanting to develop something as a performance, such as like theater, that I teach, this is a perfect website to do it. To reflect, it won't be difficult to integrate gaming technology into my class. I personally plan on starting an esports club in my high school, utilizing Twitch TV to its fullest extent. Like I said before, I also plan on using Dungeons & Dragons in my advanced theater classes as an in-depth acting exercise. Utilizing gaming in instruction, especially as technology advances, is an absolute no-brainer.